This is a really good fight, man. A really good fight. And I'm actually going to come out and say something that might be shocking to some people. He's one of the biggest underdogs on the card, and I am picking him to win. The UFC took a week off last week, but they are coming back with a banger. And I'm coming back with another banger video for you. This is the UFC 310 Lucrative MMA betting show, and I can't wait to break down these fights with you. 1 week off got me missing the UFC, but we got Alexandre Pantoja coming back and defending his flyweight title against Asakura, coming in from Rising, another organization. So this is a champ versus champ super fight, and they've made the entire card filled up with fire matchups, and we ain't gonna waste no time. We're just gonna get straight into it. We're in December now, boys, the last month of the year, so we're gonna do our very best to finish the month extremely strong, finish the year extremely strong. So in the main event, Alexandre Pantoja is taking on Asakura. Currently, Alexandre Pantoja has a record of 28-5. with Asakura coming back with a record of 21-4. Currently, they got Alexandre Pantoja sitting as a massive favorite at -260, with the comeback underdog price on Asakura of +220. So I think the first thing that's important to mention is that Asakura is actually a 135 pounder. So he was the 135 pound bantamweight champion over in Rising, and he's making this 125 pound weight class for the first time in many years. I think he's going to be able to make the weight class fine, and obviously the UFC do, otherwise they wouldn't put him in a title shot. And if he does that, then he's going to have a size advantage over Alexandre Pantoja, and he's definitely going to be trying to use that. He's a good striker, hits to the body very well, really good knees. He puts the pace on fighters. I think that Alexandre Pantoja is going to try and push the wrestling here, as he does in many fights. And Asakura most likely would try and keep it on the feet and land big shots using his size advantage and potentially a power advantage based on the size. Now, something else that's very important to mention is that Asakura is making a big transition from one organization to the next in this fight, meaning that he's not going to be fighting in a ring. So in Rising, he's used to fighting in a ring. And now he's coming to the UFC and fighting in a cage. This is a massive difference and cannot be understated, especially with the wrestling aspect of MMA and the cage wrestling, to be specific. He's not going to be used to defending takedowns against the cage. And of course, he's been training this in the gym and the training room, but there's nothing like real life UFC octagon experience, and Pantoja has that for years and years against the best fighters in the world. I definitely think that can play a major factor here. Not only that, but he's fighting in the USA for a long time. Rising is not a USA organization. He's been fighting outside of the country forever. This is in Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena. Pantoja is very used to this arena. It's also a different rule set in Rising. In Rising, they allow you to knee people when they're on the floor, and he actually has beautiful tape of doing exactly that. Takes someone down or knocks them down or scrambles with them, they go to all fours, he knees them in the head brutally. He's not going to be able to do any of that. All of that goes in the favor of Alexandre Pantoja, and at such a high level where most of the time the skill sets are not that different. And we've seen that in Pantoja's fight against Royval. We've seen that in Pantoja's fight against Steve Erceg. Obviously the Erceg one was extremely close. The Pantoja and Royval one wasn't as close, but you could still see that the skill sets are fairly close. No one really outmatches each other by that much. If you're fighting for the title, you're probably not that worse at MMA as a whole than your opponent, whether you're the challenger or the title holder. So these micro things when it comes to fighting in the same country, UFC octagon experience, a different rule set, a different weight class, can make a big difference in the fight. And they're all going against Asakura. Does it mean that he can't win the fight? Of course it doesn't mean that he can't win the fight. He's definitely got a chance to win the fight. I'd actually go as far as saying that the odds are wide and Pantoja shouldn't be a -260 favorite. Asakura can hurt Pantoja in this fight. Let's not get mistaken here. I mean, hits hard, he's very big, he has beautifully timed counters, and Pantoja's super hittable, man. Like, he's got great durability, but he's very hittable. You know, Steve Erceg was landing massive shots on him. Davison Figueiredo back in the day was teeing off on him whenever he wanted to. Brandon Moreno hit him with some good shots. Even Brandon Royval was hitting him with good shots. So it's like, for most of those fights, he's had to rely on his grappling, and he definitely can do that here as well. But it just shows you that he's hittable on the feet. It just shows you that he's not invincible on the feet if all of these fights he's basically winning them by grappling for the most part, outside of maybe the Matt Schnell fight. Now, I do think that Asakura has decent takedown defense, and I think he will be able to defend some takedowns, but Pantoja's a madman. Like, he'll just jump on your back from a crazy position. He will take your back when he's on the ground underneath your legs, like he did against Asakura. I remember that one. It was a very beautiful back take. I think these little tricks he has in the octagon is probably going to be enough for him to get to the back of Asakura at some point, and I do predict that he gets a submission win in this fight. It's been a while since he's got an inside the distance win. I mean, his last 2 fights went to decision, obviously. In fact, his last 3 fights, I believe. So that's going to be my prediction. Pantoja gets back to rear naked choke winning ways. He finds the back after some early adversity. Maybe it's a swing out in round 1, round 2. I do think that he has a chance of getting hurt here, or at least wobbled or cut open like in the Usyk fight. Something like that. I don't think it's going to be super easy to win the fight. I think he's going to have to come through some adversity. But I see his pace and pressure winning him the fight, just as it has done throughout the entirety of his UFC career and definitely his title run. I won't be making a bet on this fight because I just think that the odds on Pantoja are too wide and they're disrespecting Asakura's skill set a little bit. But based on all the intangibles, like I mentioned, because I do think this fight, for the most part, is a fight of intangibles with the different division, the different organization, a different country, all of the stuff I mentioned, I am predicting Alexandre Pantoja to keep his title in this one. Next fight of the night, we got the undefeated guys, 2 undefeated fighters in the UFC, and we don't get this often. So I'm very excited for this one. You know, someone's O has to go. We got Shavkat Rakhmonov coming in against Garry. Now, Shavkat Rakhmonov currently has an 18-0 record, and not only does he have an 18-0 record, he has 18 wins and 18 finishes. So 100% finish rate, which is absolutely spectacular for someone this high level fighting in the UFC at the pinnacle of the sport. On the other side, we have Machado Garry at 15-0. He is looking to remain undefeated, just like his opponent. So at the moment, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov as one of the biggest favorites on the card at -350. Garry with the comeback price tag of +285. So straight away, straight off the bat, the price looks crazy to me. I mean, I have been an Garry backer since the start of his career. I've never bet against Garry, and I have bet on him multiple times. I've cashed on him every single time I've bet on him, because obviously he's won every single time I've bet on him. He has burned me a couple of times when maybe I've bet him to win against decision, like against Kron Song, and so annoying that was about 15 seconds away from hitting a decision, but obviously he managed to break him down and get it finished in the final seconds of the fight. But for the most part, Garry has won me a lot of money. And when I look at his skill set, he just doesn't seem to me that he's the type of fighter that should be almost 3-1 against anybody in the world at this weight class. He's just such a high-level competitor. Beautiful striking, very pinpoint on the feet, pinpoint accuracy, footwork is amazing. His eyes are very good. He can be caught at times. His striking defense is not the best I've ever seen, but for how much he lands and how much he engages in, his striking defense is actually decent. You know, you can have amazing striking defense if you just stay on the outside and don't do anything, right? Like Umar Nurmagomedov or somebody like that. But for the amount of strikes that Garry lands, for the amount of times that he engages in the pocket with body shots and 1-2s, leg kicks, teeps, stuff like that, sometimes even pushes his opponents up against the cage, elbows, knees in the clinch. You know, his striking defense is decent. He's definitely there to be cracked. It is some weak point. If you talk about his striking, it is the most weak point, I would say. But it's still decent, right? It's not the worst of all time. I see a lot of people speaking about his striking defense, saying it's really, really bad, and it's definitely not. But it can be cracked, can be hurt. We've seen it multiple times in the UFC. You know, he got rocked and dropped badly by Kron Song, and he also got busted up a little bit by Jordan Williams. Jeff Neal also landed a couple of decent shots against him. When we speak about his grappling, it's good. You know, he's a striker, so we haven't seen his grappling too much, but we have seen it on the regional scene a couple of times. He took some fighters down. He defensively grappled very well against Jack Grant in that 5-round fight that he fought just before he went to the UFC. That's another thing that we have to mention. He has 5-round experience. It wasn't in the UFC, but he has been 5 rounds before, whereas Shavkat has only been into the 3rd round 1 time in his career, and he didn't even finish that round. He got a finish in that round against Jeff Neal. Actually, he has been in round 3 one more time. That was against Old 11. I believe that was the fight where I watched where he almost got knocked out in round 2, and then he managed to come back and get a finish in round 3. You know, the beast and the recoverability he has is very special, and he is a special fighter. You know, Shavkat Rakhmonov is a special fighter. I think that him being a favorite makes sense. I'm not saying I actually even agree with that, and I'll give you my thoughts on that very soon, but I do understand the sentiment that he should be a favorite. I mean, He seems like he has most of the finishing upside in this fight. His durability has looked better in the UFC, although I don't necessarily believe it is better. I think they could be maybe on par in that regard. I mean, I've seen both fighters drop very heavily, let's put it that way. So it's kind of hard for me to differentiate their durability. Although Shavkat has looked kind of flawless in the UFC, at least with the durability. Although Jeff Neal cracked him with some good shots, definitely hurt him in that fight. So, you know, there's an argument that Ian Garry's durability is better, or at least on par, which I feel like is not a public sentiment. You know, I think most people think Shavkat has way more of a better chin than Ian Garry, and I just don't agree with that. I mean, just haven't seen it on tape, plain and simple. You know, the fights that I've watched, that hasn't proven that at all. And I've watched most of their fights, most of their career. One thing else we should mention is that these two are former sparring partners, and I've been around long enough to know that when you have former sparring partners fighting, sometimes weird shit happens. Sometimes things happen that the public do not expect. So it's just another added piece of volatility in the fight. And I always say that when there's volatility, it's a little bit dangerous making a bet. And if you do make a bet, you have to lean more on the side of the underdog just because there are a little bit more unknowns. If you've watched my content for a long time, you'll understand that when we're betting, we're basically just making guesses, right? And the less unknowns we can have in any one fight that we're betting on, usually the better. Obviously, this is all based on the odds. It's based on what the market believes is an unknown as well. But that's just something that is worth thinking about if you're making a bet on this fight. They are former sparring partners. Weird shit does happen when they're sparring partners. It has happened in the past throughout the course of MMA history. This is a really, really good fight, man. A really, really good fight. And I'm actually going to come out and say something that might be quite shocking to some people. I actually think Ian Garry is going to win this fight, right? He's one of the biggest underdogs on the card, and I am picking him to win. I think it's about a 50-50 fight, you know, but I just think Ian Garry's going to win it. You know, maybe I say 51% or something like that. I'm picking Ian Garry outright in this one, boys. He's a plus 285 underdog, plus 295 he was yesterday. The odds come down a little bit as of this morning. And I just think he has a great chance to piece Shavkat up on the feet. He's a slicker striker, and I think that the body work from him may work. I think that his BJJ is probably good enough to not get completely ran through on the ground. I also think that in the big cage, with his tall, lanky, rangy style, it's going to take Shavkat a little bit of time to close the gap and really make it dodgy and a grueling fight for Ian Garry. And I do trust Ian Garry to persevere through tough times. You know, Shavkat does seem like he's a bit of a madman and maybe he has more dog in him than Ian Garry, but I believe Ian Garry, even though he's clowned on the internet for being a cuck or, you know, not being a strong man, I do believe that in that octagon, he's a tough motherfucker, man. You know, I think he'll push through. I think he'll bite down. I think he'll grip things out. I think he's got good cardio. He's just a really, really good fighter, man. He's a really, really good fighter. And I think that public sentiment based on him being clowned is probably recency bias in this fight. I think that his low margin wins sometimes against fighters like Jeff Neal, whereas Shavkat obviously finished Jeff Neal, is playing into this fight. I think the Shavkat Rakhmonov, the OV Russian tax, I know he's not Russian, he's Kazakhstanian, but he has Russian ties, and having OV at the end of your name, undefeated, all finishes. I think all of these things are skewing the odds. I don't believe the odds should be this wide. Can he win this fight? Yes. Should he win this fight? Yes. But I'm picking Ian Garry, and it is what it is. So we'll see how it plays out, boys. It's always a little bit scary picking a big underdog, especially the way this year has been for big underdogs. It seems like a lot of big underdogs has performed very, very well. Maybe they looked even the favorite, but they've still not got the decision on the judges' scorecards, like Carlos Leao against Rinat Fakhretdinov, or maybe they've been winning the whole fight and then, you know, unfortunately they lose in the last minute, like Jose Perez against Asil Ajuj in the last week's PFL card. You know, it's across all organizations. But I am yet again picking a big underdog here in Ian Garry. So we'll see how it goes, boys. Next fight is Alexander Volkov versus Ciryl Gane. Now, this is a rematch of a fight that happened a couple of years ago. Ciryl Gane won that fight very easily, 4 rounds to 1. If not 5 rounds to 0. And they're running it back here. I'm not too excited for the fight. I do love Ciryl Gane as a fighter. He's been a fighter who's won a lot of money for me in the past. I've lost a bit of money on him too, to be honest, but for the most part, he has earned me a lot of money, especially as I was calling him as a possible UFC champ on his debut. So I'm definitely always excited for him to fight. But since it's a rematch of a fight that I already saw that wasn't competitive, it doesn't intrigue me that much. But hey, no 2 fights are the same, no 2 rematches are the same. So hopefully it's an interesting one this time out. So we got Ciryl Gane coming in as the favorite. He's a 12-2 record, and Alexander Volkov with way more MMA experience, with a record of 38-10. So as I said, Ciryl Gane is currently the favorite at -340, so pretty hefty price tag for Ciryl Gane, with Alexander Volkov coming back as a +280 underdog. Now, straight off the bat, I understand the odds. And the reason is because of what I said earlier. You know, we've seen the first fight. It wasn't competitive. Ciryl Gane had an argument to win all 5 rounds, a complete shutout performance. And I haven't seen any fighter improve that much, to be honest. Like, I do think both of them have improved, to be honest. I find it hard to believe they're the exact same fighter as they was 3-4 years ago. To be honest, I feel like Volkov's probably better at defensive wrestling. He's packed a bit of muscle on. And I just haven't seen the adaptations that I would have need to have seen from Volkov to pick him as a winner here, or even to pick him as somebody who can compete much better than the first fight. You know, for me, seems like it's going to be a repeat of the first fight. And I don't like saying that because in the UFC and in MMA, that rarely happens. It's rarely the same as the first fight. You know, rematches don't really go as they did in the first fight. But I can't, for the life of me, see much different happening in this one. If Volkov isn't able to get his jab going, which was evident that he couldn't do that last fight, then I don't think he's going to be able to build any attacks off that. Ciryl Gane has an elite jab. The way he dances in and out of range and lands his jab is very, very good. And if he's going to be winning the jab war, I think that's going to disrupt Volkov's rhythm massively, and it's basically going to win Ciryl Gane the fight. I think that Cyryl's going to win this fight, clean-cut decision, just like he did last time. I honestly think it's going to be about a repeat of the first fight. Now, like I said, it is MMA, so I'm kind of expecting Ciryl Gane to get rocked in one of the rounds just to add some drama to the MMA game, as we always get. But you know, over the 5-round period, I do think that Ciryl Gane's going to outwork his foe, land more shots, defend some leg kicks, land his own leg kicks, land his jab much. I don't think he's going to hurt Volkov too much. Maybe a couple of times in the clinch. Maybe he dances in and out of range and catches Volkov off guard. But yeah, I think it's going to be a 4-1 decision. I'll call a 49-46 in this one. Maybe Volkov comes back in one of the later rounds when he pushes up the volume or something. But, you know, then Gane's able to adapt to it in fight, because I do think he makes much better adaptations in fight. So yeah, that's the prediction. Ciryl Gane via decision. Next fight is another fight where I don't have too much to say because it seems kind of clear cut, you know, like the Volkov and Gane fight. And boys, I'm not going to sit down and give you a 10-15 minute breakdown for fights that I don't have a strong opinion, because I'd rather save that time and save your time on fights that I do have a strong opinion on, like Garry versus Rakhmonov. Not a strong opinion necessarily on who's going to win, but definitely on the odds and how I see the fight playing out. And in this one, I feel like Bryce Mitchell's better everywhere. And yes, even in jiu-jitsu, in MMA terms. I mean, he's done a lot more in MMA with his jiu-jitsu. I know Kron Gracie's meant to be this elite jiu-jitsu player. I do think he is good at jiu-jitsu, but when it comes to MMA grappling, when you blend in the cage wrestling, when you blend in the jiu-jitsu up against the cage even, that's a different thing, right? When you're on the jiu-jitsu mats, you're not getting pressed up against the cage for the most part, so you have a little bit more room to work with, whereas, you know, maybe Kron gets some type of armbar or triangle, but he can just get his head squashed against the cage. I mean, these are all things that we have to think of. I mean, let's not forget, the way Bryce Mitchell got finished against Topuria, it may be different if they was on the jiu-jitsu mats, because I remember it was up against the cage and Bryce had a little bit less room to work with, and he may have also just felt crowded being right close to the cage like that, with Topuria clamping down on his neck. Now obviously he was hurt badly on the feet before that, and it probably contributed to that. But yeah, even grappling, not even wrestling, but legit jiu-jitsu is different in the octagon, because you're getting slammed on your head, you're getting punched in the head, you're getting kneed in the belly, punched in the belly. These things Kron Gracie is not as used to as Bryce Mitchell. So yeah, I'm going to go out on a whim here and say that the -800 favorite Bryce Mitchell rolls. I'm going to say that he's better in every era of the fight. I think that he's probably going to win by decision because Kron Gracie seems extremely tough. And Bryce Mitchell ain't really putting people out on the feet, to be honest. And then I don't think he's going to be able to submit him. Kron Gracie's a very, very good grappler. Despite what I said, it doesn't mean that it doesn't take away from his grappling skills. It just adds to Bryce Mitchell's grappling skills and tells you the dynamic of the grappling in MMA. So I'm picking Bryce Mitchell here. I'm picking Bryce Mitchell via decision. And I'm just going to check the odds of that for you, because if it's good odds, I might recommend a bet right here, live on air for you. Yes, currently Bryce Mitchell via decision is minus 200. Definitely don't love that. I mean, the over 2.5 is minus 240. So honestly, I'd prefer to play that. You skip the 2.5 minutes at the end, which can get dicey in fights, especially if there's a lot of grappling. Someone might get tired out. You never know. And then on top of that, we do have some scope for Gracie to win a decision. Let's say if they're grappling for 15 minutes, because Bryce Mitchell, all he knows is grappling, and maybe he's getting the upper hand, but you know, Kron could get him in a very tight guillotine in 2 out of the 3 rounds. You never know. Like, he could land a random knockdown on the feet, which happens. Bryce isn't a great striker. He's coming back off a knockout. Maybe he gets hurt again. Like, the over 2.5 at minus 240 is definitely better than Bryce decision at minus 200 for me. So, yeah, I don't mind that as a play. Minus 240 over 2.5 rounds. I just think Kron Gracie is so tough. I don't think he's getting finished. And then I just think Bryce is way too good for Kron Gracie. So, Kron's probably not going to finish him, let alone even beat him. So, I think the over 2.5 is a decent shot in that. Ciryl Gane via decision, if you can get a minus 110, is also a good play that I said before. So a couple of plays, just giving them to you right off the bat here. I do have some actual official plays, and as always, you can go to my website, lucrativemmabetting.com, to get those. It's much more than just betting tips. You get full card breakdowns, just like I've done here, for every single fight, including the prelim fights. You also get access to my long shot prop bets, my long shot parlay bets, which have been killing it this year. My regional scene bets, like this week, we've got bets on the regional scene event Octagon, events like Cage Warriors, One Championship, all of those type of organizations. You get my best parlay pieces for the entire weekend. And on top of that, you get my potential plus EV bets. So some bets that I believe held value that maybe I haven't bet yet or I'm looking to bet in the future. You get those. Like I said, it's the last month of the year, and we're looking to close this month very strong. We had a winning event on PFL last week, so I'm looking to build on that and hopefully take those profits and continue to roll them into profits. You know, gambling is definitely a game of up and downs, and when you're on a good streak, it sometimes seems to last for a while, and when you're on a bad streak, it sometimes seems to last for a while. It's more common that I'm on a good streak and then a bad streak and then a good streak than it is where I'm just pinging back and forth every week. Like, it doesn't usually happen like that. So hopefully last week was the start of a good winning streak for us. And with that all being said, I'll go back into the card. This is the last fight on the main card, and it's annoying because I want to speak about the whole card, but as you know, this show is only for the main card. But this is the fight to kick off the main card. It's Nate Landwehr versus Choi. We've got Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train, an absolute fan favorite, coming in with an 18-5 record, and Choi currently has a 15-4-1 record. Now, we've got the odds pretty close in this matchup. Minus 140 for Nate the Train and plus 120 for Choi. So I favor Nate Landwehr here. I favor Nate Landwehr, not massively, because the first thing this fight seems to me to be is volatile. And what I mean by that is either fighter can get a chinned in this fight. I mean, Nate the Train loves getting hurt. He just has a passion for getting hurt in the octagon. Now, he ends up winning half the fights. He gets badly hurt and he gets knocked out and he still wins the fight. You know, it happens quite often, which is quite interesting, you know. But he still loves getting hurt. He gets rocked all over the octagon, and Choi is the exact same thing. This guy gets knocked all over the octagon. He gets hurt in many fights as well, and that makes it a tough matchup to predict straight off the bat, and that's why the odds are where they are. But if I look at it outside of the volatility aspect, because we know it's volatile, right? We know either fighter can get a knockout. We know this. So now we have to look deeper into the fight. I think Nate the Train has a grappling upside here. I think he has a submission grappling upside here. I think he has a cardio advantage here. And he has a not only UFC experience, but high level experience and high level win advantage here. You know, he's got wins over fighters who are a lot better than Choi has ever beat. You know, Jamal Emmers and David Onama. Those are two good wins, man. Very, very good wins. Much better wins than Choi has ever managed. And, you know, Choi was obviously out of the octagon for many, many years. He came back and he has looked decent, but I don't think he's fought the level of fighter that Nate Landwehr has been used to fighting. And he hasn't fought the level of fighter that Nate Landwehr is. So outside of a knockout in round 1 or round 2, I think he's going to get put through the ringer here and possibly finish late in round 2 or round 3. So that will be my prediction. I do think Nate Landwehr will win in round 2 or round 3, but it is a very volatile fight. I don't think that any money lines are worth betting in this fight, because do you really want to rely on Nate to win the fight in a fight that there's a good chance he gets rocked in, there's a good chance he gets hurt in, and he's an aging fighter now. You know, he's took a lot of damage in the octagon, and it's just tough to trust him against a fighter who, if not anything else, can crack very hard and is very good at timing his boxing. So yeah, I'm picking Nate to win here. I will be looking at props, maybe Nate to win via TKO, maybe Nate to win inside the distance, because the submission can come, as we've seen before. Maybe Nate to win in round 2 or round 3. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking at, and that's my prediction for the fight. Nate the Train inside the distance in a banger. I think it's going to be a banger. So that's it, boys. But we've got one very, very exciting piece left. So you want to stick around for this one, boys. We are doing the Lucrative MMA Wheel of Fortune. So a couple of weeks ago, I spun the Wheel of Fortune, the Lucrative Wheel of Fortune, to give someone away a 1-month free membership. My man Triways won that. Congratulations to you. He DM'd me. I sorted him out of a free membership, so he's on. He has a free membership to the Elite Zone. Again, I'm playing Santa and giving 1 month away for free. I've been doing a lot this year. I've been doing a lot of Santa stuff. I've been giving away, just recently, I gave out a free group, and I have it right now, a free group available for you to join, where I give out NFL picks, college football picks, NBA picks, and college basketball picks for free. Now, I did shut that group down, but I'm gonna open it up again just for the people watching this YouTube. I'm not gonna post it out that I've opened it up anywhere, but if you're watching this YouTube channel now, you can go to my Twitter or my Instagram, DM me, tell me you wanna get in those free groups, and I will personally give you access to those groups, even though they're closed right now. But anyway, forget all of that. I'm being Santa, and I'm being Santa again. Let's spin the Wheel of Fortune and see who's won 1 month of the Elite Zone. All right, we're spinning it now. Let's go. Let's see who's dropping against. Oh, here we go, here we go. Stop. AT420X. Congratulations to you. You just won 1 month free of the Elite Zone on the Lucrative Wheel of Fortune. Congratulations. All you need to do is DM me on Twitter or Instagram, and yeah, let me know you won, and I will give you free access. And don't worry, don't try and fake who you are if anyone else is trying to pretend to be that guy, because I've already saved his YouTube profile, so I know exactly what YouTube profile he is, and I'll get him to post a video or comment to prove his verification. So that's it, boys. I'm going to get out of your hair now. Well done to AT420X. If you want to be in with a chance to win on the next show, then just comment down below, comment something cool, comment something interesting, and you may win on the next edition of Wheel of Fortune. Good luck on your bets this weekend. Sign up to my website if you want my picks, as I said, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.